But you take a plane from 1960 and you take the 2024 model of it right now, every rivet, everything is exactly the same. Throughout the series, he was trying to prove to people that you could not only get your license, but buy your first plane with also not a lot of money. Yeah. Our plane, we didn't even know could fly. We put it together. We flew it once and it crashed. And we had to rebuild it right before the competition. Got out of the car, got in a plane, and then flew for the first time by myself. Brandon and I are not actually deciding whether we can buy something or not.
Okay.
The business guys say if we can buy it or not, based on what our goals are. And we set it in the beginning of the season. But we also know that we did fine teaching ourselves everything.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Silent Smirk podcast, where we improve a little bit one episode at a time. I'm your host, Michael Ornek, and have been waiting to welcome Jake Simon onto the show for some time now. Jake is a captain of Umass Aeronautics Club, an aviator in his own right, and an airplane mechanic. He is currently a junior at Umass Amherst studying mechanical engineering, and a good friend of mine. Jake, welcome.
How's it going?
Good, man. Good. So I like to start off every single episode with a bit of a warm-up question. So I'm curious to know the average day in the life.
Average day in the life. So I'm definitely pretty strict with my schedule during the semester, I'd say. And usually it ends up carrying over into into the winter breaks where I really should be relaxing, but I end up taking on projects and stuff. But I think usually get up around 6:30 to 7. Usually, maybe in the breaks it gets closer to 8 o'clock. But if I don't get up early, then I feel like I'm not getting as much done as I could be. So I usually get up around that time during the semester. Usually swim. So I've been getting into swimming, which you said we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, and then like what I'm doing right now, I'm taking on way more projects than I can handle.
What kind of projects?
So the first thing is me, my brother, and my dad are building a 3/4 scale of a P-51 Mustang. So it's an experimental category aircraft. Basically, there's this company, Titan, that makes these kits, and you put a Corvette LS3 engine into it, and it's two-place, goes around 200 miles an hour, and it's been in the process for about 6 years, but that's usually, we're all slowly building it on the side.
Is it like a continuous thing, or does it come in random intervals? How's the plane been working out over the past 6 years?
So in high school, when we first got it, so this is the backstory of of how we, got the plane. So we always wanted to build a plane, but we never had the money to do it because, all the kits are a little bit different, but they usually start around maybe 40,000 finished and they just go up from there. And we were thinking, maybe there's a way that we could make this still come true, even though we can't spend $100,000 to get a kit plane. So my dad's company is Social Flight, and it's a free web app and things like, or free website and app that tells pilots where to go and places to be and pancake breakfast and things to do with flying.
Yeah.
And so what we did is, it's a free app, so they make all the money, or the company makes money off of the advertisers. So we already have a little bit of public exposure with them, and we end up making videos on YouTube for some of their marketing campaigns and stuff like that. And we found this plane called the T-51 Mustang. So this company, Titan, that makes a 3/4 scale of the P-51 Mustang, which is this World War II aircraft, fighter jet that goes like 450 miles an hour, 500 miles an hour, and it's just this crazy good looking plane.
Yeah.
And they sell these kits where they basically send you all the materials to build it, but there's nothing really done for you aside from like they give you the things that it needs to fly. So the landing gear's there. The wings are most of the way done. The fuselage is a steel structure. And
what's a fuselage?
so the fuselage is like the whole center of the plane.
Yeah.
That's where the pilots go. It's the whole center, everything aside from
Right.
the wings. We can call the fuselage for this. And they give you the main shape that's already welded for you. So you're just building around that, basically. Yeah. And
it's like the ultimate Lego set.
You're right. Yeah. The 6-year Lego set. And so what we ended up doing is we reached out to this company, Titan, and it's me, my brother, and my dad in the house. And we were like, this is, it's the three of us. We could build it in our house. We have this platform that we could use where, we'll just document the entire build. And you basically get the marketing for as long as it takes for us to build it. And at the time we thought it was 4 years, and we were, well beyond that. So they're getting their money's worth, I guess, because, it's 6 years, and hopefully it'll be a few more years, definitely. But so we, pitched this deal to them, and they ended up saying yes. So they just sent us everything we needed to, get the plane ready. The engine, propeller, all the structures for the aircraft. And then the only thing that they don't provide is like the avionics.
And this is a Mustang airplane, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And so the only thing that they don't provide is the avionics. So navigation equipment, there's, little instruments that tell you which way's up and how fast you're going and things like that. So we were able to use the advertisers that we already had for Social Flight and, partner with them again for this build. So that's how we were able to kind of get everything together and make this kind of dream come true for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then you were saying that this is a jet from World War II, right?
Yeah, so it's a piston-powered aircraft. It's this crazy Rolls-Royce 12-cylinder engine plane that has, I don't even know how many thousand horsepower. Yeah. And it's kind of, when people think about like World War II fighters, this is usually a lot of the time what they think of. It's like the best looking, fastest,
And then, so I'm pretty well versed on how jet airplanes and aviation has changed commercially, but I guess recreationally and in the defense industry, how has it changed since World War II? Like some
not much. Not much. Yep. The fighter jets are in a different ballgame with electronic warfare, and now with the jets. So this is a piston powered with a propeller. Now it's all jets. Or the majority of the fighters are jets.
You think they can be AI powered, these military jets?
I'm sure that some of them are already somehow. But the thing with aviation is things move so slowly because of how regulated everything is. Mm-hmm. If I was just doing a job for a plane doing some interior work. Yeah. And in order to do interior work, everything has to be, fireproof. And you have to be able to prove that it's fireproof. It makes sense. If the plane goes on fire, you don't.
So you set the plane on fire to prove it's fireproof?
Well,
so what if you mess up?
Yep. So, but how the regulations work is you can have a piece of fabric that you prove is fireproof. So it's either already proven, or you take it and you burn it and you get a burn certificate for it. Okay. And you can have another piece of fabric that's also burn proof. And you can have a piece of thread that's also burn proof. Mm-hmm. And you can put them all together. And when you sew them all together, it's no longer burn proof according to the FAA.
How?
I don't know.
Is that regulation, or
that's just regulation?
Wow.
So it's things like that where you have things that are clearly burn proof. Yeah. But they make you do it again to prove that it's still burn proof when they're sewn together. So it's with that. It's that philosophy that happens everywhere, where cars now are completely electronic. You have engine computers. That doesn't really exist in aviation. Everything is tractor magnetos. The battery you could fall out of the aircraft.
Oh, what are tractor magnetos?
So how the old style engines work is you have an engine and it needs spark, and to fire the to light the fuel. Yeah. And how it used to work is you have this thing that spins. It's basically a magnet that spins inside of a coil.
Oh.
And that's what'll provide the spark. So it's all self-contained. So you could have no battery and the engine will still run. You're still creating electric spark.
Sure.
Now with these cars, everything's electronic. You need the battery. The battery's firing where the sparks, when, and it can change when. And it's able to change everything, like how much fuel. And the planes are still in the 1940s where you have to adjust the mixture yourself. There's no engine computer. You have this magneto that's self-contained. So technically it's, a little safer because you don't have to deal with, if you lose a battery, you lose the engine. But at the same time, things move so slowly. So you could have a plane from the 60s or the 70s, like the plane I was just working on.
Yeah.
And then buy that same plane now. So get the 2024 brand new model. You will find almost zero difference, like actually zero difference between the two aside from the screen.
And like cosmetics, I'd assume too.
What'd you say?
Like cosmetics too.
Yeah. So cosmetics you can change a little bit. And the screens that you see can change and the paint color can change.
Oh, okay.
But you take a plane from 1960 and you take the 2024 model of it right now, every rivet, everything is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because the regulations are so stringent that you
I mean, there
that.
is a benefit to that too, because if it's not going to be fully, electric battery powered and sort of the way cars are going, at least there's more power in your hands to repair these planes. Things are a little bit more straightforward, and you're more self-reliant because if you have a Tesla, you can't do work on the Tesla on your own.
Yep. And so there's
Again,
there's definitely a little bit about that. Yep. But so there's pros and cons. There's these planes work, they've worked forever, why change them?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have all these things that are done in cars. You have self-driving cars now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get that for a plane. You can get an autopilot and all it's doing is following a radio signal.
Yeah.
But so there's pros and cons. There has to be more of a balance, but so there's the technology is slowly being introduced.
Okay. So in addition, to being an airplane mechanic, you're also an aviator. What got you into aviation?
So it's a kind of a similar story with the plane. So my dad got his license, I don't know, probably in his late 20s, early 30s, just because he had a friend and his friend had it and, something that he wanted to get into that I thought was cool. And he ended up doing strategic marketing and got into this aviation company that, made products for aircraft. So he was kind of in the aviation world a little bit. And just had his private pilot's license, which, you can take a small plane up, take your family. You can't make money or anything off of that. And so he got his license. He ended up getting really into it and wanted to teach other people that you could get into flying and get into, aviation, buy your first plane without a lot of money. So we made this video series and we still have the VHS tapes that he sells, and people still buy VHS tapes from him for some random reason.
Yeah. And is it online now, or is it only
now it's
VHS?
online?
Okay.
Yep. But people still buy the VHSs for some reason. It's all on YouTube for free. But so it started with this series called the Educated Owners Video Series, and it was the whole goal was to show people who already had a plane that they could save a lot of money and they could actually do things themselves, because you really don't need an A&P to do everything. The FAA gives a lot of ways for you
and
to...
A&P is
the airframe and power plant mechanics license. And so he was trying to prove to people that you could still work on your plane without having all this money. And then throughout the series, he was trying to prove to people that you could not only get your license, but buy your first plane with also not a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of planes you can get now for $20,000-$25,000, which is a lot of money for a lot of people, but a lot of people have a second car. So you're basically proving that if you want a second car, you might also be able to get into aviation if you want to. So that's where the whole thing started. And then me and my brother, when we were growing up, we were around that whole thing. He was making these video series. We were helping him work on the plane when he was, doing this video series. He's working with mechanics, so he ended up getting the hours he needed to get his A&P mechanics license, which lets you do most things on airplanes. And me and my brother were just around it, so we were really young. We were just handing tools to him, which you can actually log time for. We were just around him, and so we went on family vacations on our little 4-seat, 100-mile-an-hour.
Where did you guys go?
We used to do one trip a year usually. We did one cross-country trip where we, went to St. Louis. We went to Mount Rushmore, Grand Canyon, all the way around. And
did you see the Grand Canyon from the sky?
Yeah. We did both. Yep. Yeah. So I was really young, so I don't remember all of it, but it's definitely not like an airliner. You are going, it's a 24 to 48 hours of flying time to get all the way around. Yeah. So that's how we grew up.
It's the same thing for driving though. From east to west coast, it's 24 hours.
Yep.
I'm assuming you have to take a lot of pit stops though.
Yeah. And the plane can fly for probably 6 hours, but we don't want to sit there for 6 hours. So you take 3 hour stops and you make your way over there, but that's
it's part of the process.
It's fun, and you get to see parts of the US that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. And so that's how we kind of got into flying. We were in the right seat. Me and my brother, and we were too short to actually see over.
Do they have
the
booster
panel.
Seats?
Yeah, so we used to take these textbooks. We used to steal these textbooks from the airport. They had a flight school there. Yeah. So we used to take all these flight school textbooks and we just stack them on top of each other and then put the car seat on top of that and then sit.
They're that low to the ground? You had to do all of that?
You'd had to see over the panel because it had all the instruments in front of you. So we just had to raise ourselves up. And we were probably, 4 years old or 5 years old. And then we would fly with our dad and we would, get to hold the yoke and he'd teach us how to do things. And so we did that all the way through. And then, COVID was not great for a lot of people. But I look back to COVID and there was some positives about it, which is you have a lot more time. And I was able to go through the process of studying for my mechanics license there while I was in high school, and then I got it. So that's how I got my mechanics license, is just shadowing my dad, who's a mechanic, shadowing other mechanics. And then thanks to COVID, I had a lot more time to do that, and I could build up the hours to do that. And I got my license, right before that.
Your AMF, is that the name?
So A&P. So it's A and P. So the A is airframe and the P is power plant. So you can kind of get two different ones, or you can get them both together. And then the private pilot's license is the first license that you can get in aviation. Right. So yeah, and it was pretty funny when I did my first solo. So part of the
tell me about that process.
Part of the flying process, or the flying, the student pilot process, is you start and you take your written test, and you just have to know the procedures and the rules and things like that. And then you go and you start training with a CFI, a flight trainer, and you do a certain amount of hours until he's comfortable getting out of the plane, and you fly yourself. And for
what's the average amount of training hours?
So it's different for everybody. Because I was flying for so long, I was able to do it in 8 or 9 hours. Okay. With an instructor. For some people, if you've never flown before, maybe it's closer to 15 to 20. It's all you're trying to prove to your flight instructor that he can get out of the plane and you're not going to kill yourself. So for a lot of people, actually, it's probably pretty evenly split. So sometimes the instructor thinks you're ready and will say, drop me off here. And then you're just on your own and you didn't prepare for it. So some people have that cool experience. And unfortunately, I didn't.
Cool? I would be mortified.
Yeah, so he just gets out and you just got to go fly yourself. And you you usually do 3 patterns. So you
Okay.
take off, you do a close loop, and then you land. And you
Is
do
there
that 3
some
times.
sort of like evacuation procedure if you're on an airplane and things are going wrong, or just like a captain to boat, you're bounded to it?
Yeah. There's checklists,
Right.
and you go through your emergency procedures, but it's you and the plane.
Is it like a parachute and like it propels you out of your seat?
Some planes now,
Yeah.
you can start to get airplane parachutes. So the actual plane has its own parachute.
Okay.
Most
I feel
planes
that
don't
should
have
be. I
that.
feel that should be required.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking about all these regulations, but they don't have that for an airplane.
Nope.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just you and the plane, but planes glide. They don't just fall out of the sky.
Okay.
So a lot of times you're able to land in a field, land on a
Yeah,
road,
yeah.
something like that. And that's part of the flight training
Sure.
process. It's like teaching you how to make those decisions. But for my solo, it was like a scheduled thing. It was, okay, you're going to solo at this date.
Yeah.
And, I had family and stuff go.
Mhm.
But it also happened to be on my 16th birthday.
Oh, awesome.
And it also, what happens on your 16th birthday in Massachusetts is you get your driver's permit and you drive for the first time.
I lost a bet. I thought it was 15, and I had to buy Nate
really?
a coffee because of that. Yeah. So
funny.
16.
Yeah, so 16, and I drove to the RMV, got my permit, drove for the first time from Leominster to Stowe on the highway, got out of the car, got in a plane, and then flew for the first time by myself. Yeah, on the same day.
I can't think of a better way to spend your 16th birthday.
It was pretty fun.
Wow. So what do you like most about flying?
I think it's a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And that's why, I took you up, and I love taking people up, because it's when you see everything from above, and, these planes don't go very fast. And especially when you're in the air and you're above, you're well a ways above the trees, things seem really, really slow. So, just looking around, it's like a different perspective on everything. And especially when the wind is really calm, it's just like super soothing. And then the other side of it is it takes, a lot of focus. There's a lot of like professionalism that goes along with flying.
Yeah.
Even if you're just taking friends up, during your flight training process, you learn to treat everything with professionalism. And you do your checklists out loud, and you tell your passengers when and when they can't talk, and and I think it's like part of that. And you're in control of a lot of stuff when you're flying a plane. And I think it's like not like the pressure, but it's very, very satisfying when you land and you're like, yeah, I did that. I was able to control that. So yeah, I think those are the 2 things.
Yeah, and I remember when you took Nate and I up.
Yeah.
I still can't thank you enough for that. That was
we should go up again.
Yeah, let's do it. But when you took us up, Nate and I were just like we weren't aware that everyone could hear what we were saying on the comm. Like everyone in the air were just messing around. So yeah, that's why I was laughing when you're talking about the professionalism part. And also it was a little bit nerve-wracking because we were in such like a small space and in the sky, right? In the past, when I'd be flying, I'm used to commercial jet. It doesn't feel like I'm flying.
Yeah.
If I'm being brought food and can watch movies, I'm not really thinking that I'm in thousands of feet in the air. Have there been any times when you were genuinely concerned while you were in the air of being in some sort of danger?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like what?
That happens, and you learn from it. And just there's situations that you look back on and you learn from. For example, we were flying to Oshkosh one year, and there was a big thunderstorm.
You've mentioned Oshkosh before, but where's Oshkosh?
So Oshkosh, it's really called AirVenture, but a lot of people call it Oshkosh
because it's in
right? Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So it's the biggest air show in the world that happens
Yeah.
every year, and everyone flies in,
Yep.
and there's probably 30,000 planes that fly in a year. Last year, I think they got like 750,000 people come
To Oshkosh?
to Oshkosh,
Whoa.
and it's 1 week, and it's everyone that loves aviation
Mhm.
is there. Every plane that you want to see is there. So, for example, the P-51 Mustang that what we're building is modeled after, there was a plane called the XP-82,
Mhm.
and it was a test plane that never actually like went into service, but I think it was for like surveillance or things like that. And they took two of these planes, so the P-51 Mustang.
Yeah.
They took two P-51 Mustangs. They put them side by side and then welded them together.
No. Okay.
So they basically cut the two inside wings short
Yeah.
and then riveted them all together. But
Okay.
it's two P-51 Mustangs
Mhm.
that are attached to each other. And I don't know the whole reasoning of why they did that, but there was only a few of them that were actually made.
Yeah.
And then until a few years ago, there was none that were put together or flying.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
so there's this, this big group of people that came together and restored this plane, and they flew it at Oshkosh. So like things like that they bring.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's super fun.
So they attached the two P-51s together,
Mm-hmm.
and they took it in the sky.
Yep. Another crazy thing is people.
Is that legal? Like, do you
Yeah,
need to get
so-
some sort of clearance
So
to do that?
that I'm not sure how they did that.
Yeah.
It technically was a restoration, so it must have. That I'm not sure. There's various ways that you can certify
Right.
aircraft. However, when we're building this plane, it's in the experimental category. So most
Sure.
planes that you fly are in the certified category,
Mhm.
which means made by a manufacturer.
Yeah.
You can't change anything about it unless you go through the FAA's process of approving the repair, the
So
alteration,
like even paint,
whatever it is.
you can't. You have to go through that process.
Yeah,
Like you
and-
want to put
right.
Hello Kitty on your airplane, but you
Yeah.
have to you have to get approval.
So there's certain things that are kind of like inherently approved.
Yeah.
But you still have to go through the process of saying it's okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of times for that stuff, it's just the mechanic documenting why it's okay.
Sure.
But so what were we talking about?
Oshkosh, the two planes coming
Oh
together.
yeah. So in the experimental category,
Yeah.
you can do almost anything you want,
Mhm.
as long as you're the builder.
Yeah.
So, if we wanted to change this P-51
And
Mustang,
you need to have your A&P, right?
no, you don't need. Nope. Anyone can build a plane.
Okay.
All you have to do is show this to the FAA and say, I built it, and they come and look at it and say, yep, you're good to try.
Wow.
And so people do some wild things with
Yeah, I
experimental
bet.
planes.
Do they need their flyers? Like any sort of
You still need your license.
Okay.
So you still need to be able to fly a plane.
Yeah.
However, most of the rest is up to you as
Yeah.
the builder. And there are people that take, so there's two planes at Oshkosh.
Mhm.
They did the exact same thing as the P-51 Mustang, and they welded them together.
Right.
But then they put a jet engine in between.
No.
So that was part of an air show. People strap anything.
Has
to these
anything ever
planes.
gone wrong during one of these air shows?
Yeah, things go wrong.
Wow.
But there's 30,000 planes. There's usually only a few accidents.
Okay, only a few.
So it happens every year. It's less and less.
Yeah.
But yeah. So when you take that many planes, you usually have pilots. Out of the 30,000 planes, let's say you have 60,000 pilots that are flying.
Yeah.
Some of those are not going to be the most experienced or versed pilots.
Yeah.
So the decision-making processes might not be there for a lot of them.
Is flying like riding a bike? You can put it off for some time, but always pick it up and be just fine.
I don't. So there's some aspects that you can make into muscle memory that you can get back really quick, but there definitely is such thing as being a rusty pilot, and
Yeah.
you get an instructor to get you back to the point that you were before. So you can definitely lose a lot of it.
But can you get it back, in one flight?
Depends how long you were gone
Okay.
for. I think most of flying is not hard.
Yeah.
You could get in a plane right now, fly and land perfectly fine.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
Can
could
I test it out with your plane?
we'll see about it. Any other person's plane.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that you learn is like how to make quick decisions.
Mhm.
And I think that is what you can lose when you're away from it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I was assuming that was the case, but just checking. Are there any like common myths in aviation that that stand to be corrected, that are false or maybe true? Well, a myth is
So in flying, there's so many. And
yeah.
in flying and in maintenance, I'm trying to think of some, but basically, flying started in the early 1900s, and these planes didn't really change until after
Who
the
made
40s
the first
or the 50s.
airplane? Pop quiz.
The Wright brothers.
Okay. Good.
So the planes are almost unchanged
Yeah.
since the 40s and 50s, sometimes the 60s.
Mhm.
So there wasn't a ton of technology back then, and there's a lot of things that were kind of common knowledge that were spread through of this is how you maintain an aircraft, this is what happens, that just stuck because the planes are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, whereas if there's like a new car that, that came out, with all this technology, there might be a different way of looking at it. Whereas the planes are the same, a lot of these like myths and ways of doing things and ways of maintaining the planes can kind of stick. So there's this slow movement of in aircraft maintenance of trying to get away from a lot of those ways of thinking.
Sure.
To be able to like actually use data to make decisions. There's this really cool company, Aviation.
Savvy. Okay. I'm looking it up.
And what they're doing is their main thing is using and promoting engine data, or utilizing engine data. So you can now get engine monitors, and you can take a bunch of sensors, put it into this engine monitoring system.
What does it monitor?
Like temperatures, speeds, various things in the engine. Oil temperature, cylinder head temperature, exhaust gas temperatures, and you can tell a lot by analyzing this data. Whereas before, you're going off of sounds, you're pressurizing a cylinder. So you're taking a spark plug out, you're putting pressurized air into it, and you're seeing how much is leaking out. And that's still used today, and it's still a good start to figure out what is maybe going wrong in an engine. But before, that was a common practice, and people still stick by, I'm just going to pressurize it. If the difference between the amount of pressure I'm putting in and the amount that's staying in the cylinder is pretty similar, engine's good to go.
Okay.
And, there's a lot more to the story than just if it can hold air or not.
Yeah.
So you can use these monitoring systems to maybe see, oscillations in temperatures and be able to say, well, this is a sign of, this kind of burn or this kind of wear. And you can also take these borescopes, or the little cameras, go inside the cylinder and actually look around and take pictures and send it to mechanics. So there's like a new way of doing things that are slowly being integrated.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things in aircraft maintenance, because everything's so old.
Yeah.
That that's the way a lot of things are going.
Yeah. Sustainability.
Yeah. I sound really deep. I like this.
I know.
I usually don't like the sound of my voice, but your
can,
mics are making it good.
I know. You can change it up too. I also put a compressor on.
Okay.
And a compressor just like equalizes the sound of your voice.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's very little.
Yeah, my voice
variation.
sounds so different, but I
yeah.
don't mind.
And then during the editing process, I also go further into the audio. I cut out all the low ends of the sound. Boost the high ends just a tad bit. Okay, so I want to we're still in the realm of aviation.
Okay.
I want to hop to a different part of it. So you're the captain of the Umass Aeronautics team, right?
Yep.
An excellent club to join, an excellent club to be a part of. If you're at Umass, I would highly recommend it. You'll be under the guidance of the notorious Jake Simon. First of all, for general viewers, can you explain what aeronautics is?
So it's a relatively new team
Yeah.
for UMass. Basically, the engineering department, the mechanical industrial engineering department, has
Yeah, don't
a
forget
bunch of
about the
teams.
industrial engineers.
Yeah, try not to. So they have 5 primary teams,
Yeah.
and they're very similar to like robotics teams, but they're all in their own realm. So there's a super mileage vehicle team,
Yeah.
and they take like a little go-kart engine and put it inside this one person pod, and it's like a little car basically. And the whole competition is to get the most gas mileage out of it. So they can get close to like 2,000 miles to the gallon. Some teams can get close to 5,000 miles to the gallon.
Off a go-kart engine.
Yeah. Yeah, they use like go-kart or like small motorcycle engines.
What?
Yeah. And it's a lot of aerodynamics, and then it's a lot of tuning the engine to just be as efficient as you possibly can. So they'll take an engine that has maybe a 3-inch diameter cylinder, and that puts a lot of fuel to be able to burn, to equalize the amount of air that's in there. You need to put the equal amount of fuel, or the right amount of fuel into there. So what they do is they put a big sleeve into it, and they make that engine have a piston of maybe like an inch in diameter, inch and a half in diameter, and probably closer to an inch. And they're able to you produce less power, but you use a lot less fuel.
Sure.
So they tune this whole thing to be able to get to, I don't know, the 15 or 35 miles an hour or whatever they're driving at.
Right.
And it's just enough power to make them go, but nothing more.
But you're going at 15, 35 miles an hour.
It's something like that, 25. It's less than 35, but it's something like that.
But you can do that for 2,000. You said 2,000 to 5,000 miles per gallon.
Yeah. So how it works is they give you a little cup of fuel, and they weigh that cup of fuel.
Oh, okay.
Then you put it into the tank.
Right.
You drive however many miles, a few miles probably.
Yeah.
And then you take all the fuel out and you weigh that. And that's how much fuel you burned. And then you kind of like interpolate extrapolate what your your actual gas mileage is. So that's one team. It's a really cool team to join. Very hands-on.
Yeah.
There's like a racing team. So they do, they use a very similar engine, but just try to go like 85 miles an hour. They do not care about efficiency. There's a robotics team. There's a rocket team. And, they make these rockets that have these, this year there's a drone that comes out of the top of the rocket, and it has to fly down and self-orient and things like that. And then one of the other teams is the aeronautics team. So one of the competitions is run by this organization called AIAA. And it's basically...
well, Jake, first, like, what is aeronautics as a subject? Like, what is the field of aeronautics?
So it's kind of, my understanding of it is just anything that really flies.
Perfect.
And what the aeronautics team does is we compete in this competition by AIAA, which is this international competition where you have to build a remote control aircraft to be able to do a certain amount of missions. Every year is completely different. So the rules come out in September, and the competition is in April. Yeah. Alternates between Arizona.
And it's collegiate, or is it?
Right. It's pretty much completely just collegiate. And it alternates between Arizona and Kansas. So you have all these teams internationally, teams from Germany, China, Australia, Austria, all these places, as well as, all the big schools in the US. Right. And you go and you compete. So they don't tell you how to build the plane. They just say, this is the mission. So you have to transport this cargo. It has to be able to fold. It has to be able to deploy something. It has to be able to fly for this long while doing something else. And they tell you how they're going to score it. So there's usually 3 missions that all overlap. So if you were to design the plane to be really good at one mission, it means it's probably going to be really bad at the other mission.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to balance the two or three missions.
Right.
And that's really the rules that they give you. And then you start from scratch and you start the design process.
And they give you three missions, right?
Usually it's 3 missions and then 1 ground mission.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you what were the last 3 missions for last April?
So last April was in Arizona. We had to build a plane that would do electronic warfare.
Yeah.
So we didn't actually have
subtle.
yeah. So we didn't have the actual, electronic warfare things, but we would.
Good call.
They would, but they would give us, or we would have to make the shape of what everything would be with the weights to simulate all that equipment being in there. So we had to put an antenna on the wing. We had to put this payload inside. So the first mission is the same every single year. And it's a staging mission. You just have to prove to them that the plane can fly. So you take off, nothing inside of it, and you just fly 3 laps.
What percent of people fail after the first mission?
Like 50.
Yeah. that makes
probably. I don't know. Maybe a little bit less than that, but there's a lot of crashing and then speed building, and then you get the plane back in the air. Planes that disconnect from the receivers and fly.
So you're not disqualified if you fail the first mission. You can
no, you just can't move on until you pass that mission.
Yeah.
But they give you multiple tries.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So the first mission's the staging mission.
Mm-hmm.
The next mission last year was you had to put this this payload inside the plane. And you basically get graded on the amount of weight that you can carry for how long you can fly. So if you put a crazy amount of weight in the plane, you're not going to be able to fly as far or as fast.
Sure.
Unless you build a plane that's really good that can carry that amount of weight.
Right.
And then the mission after that was also part of this electronic warfare simulation where you had a antenna, which we used a PVC pipe basically to simulate the shape of the antenna, and you have to put it on one wingtip.
Yeah.
And so you have all these forces that are not equal on both sides, and you have to design a plane that is basically going to be stable even with that amount of drag on one side of the plane. So you have these 3 missions basically that all kind of counteract each other, and then the ground mission is the plane had to be able to be completely assembled in less than 5 minutes. So you had to put it into this box that was like the checked bag size for the airlines.
Okay.
So it's like height plus width plus length is equal to 62 inches, I think is what the airlines say is like the maximum dimensions for a checked bag.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically had to build a box that is a checked bag. Then you had to build a plane that could go in that checked bag.
But you knew about this in September.
Right.
Okay.
And then be assembled in less than 5 minutes, which you think is a lot of time.
I don't think that's a lot of time.
We thought it was a lot of time until we started practicing.
Yeah.
And we realized that it's not a lot of time.
Holy moly.
So, and the whole thing is, the plane should be able to be deployed. Everyone had to do it.
But so when you're competing, right?
Yeah.
Is it only they limit the amount of people who can participate, or is it like the entire team can go? And
so yeah, I mean anyone.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's pause for a second. Okay. So, gosh, we were talking about the number of people who can compete, right?
Yeah. So pretty much anyone can go if they want. In order to get into the competition, you have to write this proposal.
Right.
The whole team does it. You send it, and then they pick 110 teams to go. Okay. So it's definitely competitive to get in. But once you're in, then you have to do a design report, and then you go and you compete. But anyone can go, and it's super cool because they didn't tell you how to build it. So you get there, and you start to walk around, and you look at all these planes, and you're like, holy crap, like that is a cool plane.
Yeah.
Like I did not think of that. And the actual
how intimidating is it to see everyone else's planes?
It can be pretty intimidating. So last year was the first year that we actually, competed. The year before
Sure.
that was basically after COVID, it was hard to like jumpstart the team. And during my freshman year, it was the first year back that they were really starting to become a thing, but never really had the motivation that, the team to, really be on it and put in the work that was necessary to make it. And so last year, we were just trying to get to the competition. Our plane, we didn't even know could fly. We put it together. We flew it once and it crashed. And we had to rebuild it right before the competition. And it crashed not because of the design.
Yeah.
It crashed because one wire was not put in fully. And it just came loose. Plane went down.
So one of the electrical engineers might have messed up.
Unnamed electrical engineers.
Oh, plural.
But yeah, so that was like our first time going, and we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
We were crossing our fingers that the plane would fly. But you walk around and you see all these planes that are made out of carbon fiber, the teams that are putting in $200,000 into making a plane.
So,
we only spent $1,500.
Yeah, and funding must be a big thing, right? For UMass especially. How do you guys? So, was everyone's travel expenses provided for? How does the team go about getting funding?
Everything was provided for from the team, but then the team has to raise the money. So, the first thing is friends and family reaching out. Because we're a new team, we don't have like the actual sponsors yet, and that's something that I think after this year is something that we can really start trying to pursue. And then going to the department and saying, this is the value of our team, are you willing to put a certain amount into it? So last year they were able to give us some money to be able to go to the competition.
That's awesome.
So that was great. So, but we were definitely in terms of budget, very, very low end of the competition. But we ended up coming in 24th out of 110 teams.
That's
and
very impressive.
It was only because we flew every mission. So one of the missions, you had to put weight on top of the plane. So you had to hold or you basically had to strap the tips of the wings to this rig and then just add weight. So
how much weight?
So this team from Germany did like almost 800 pounds onto a plane that weighed like 15, which is insane.
And it's German engineering, right?
Right. But we were so nervous, we did not want to break the plane because you do it right before you fly.
Yeah.
So we put 2 pounds on it. And all we cared about, we could care less about how every team was doing like hundreds of pounds, and we just put on this little 2-pound weight. And it's pretty, when teams were looking at us, like they're putting like concrete on, like literally they brought in a trailer, like concrete with a duct tape handle around it. And they were just loading these things. And we just had this little circular weight that we just placed on top of the plane.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Good.
It was like so anticlimactic, but I mean,
but you guys still got your goal. I mean, you
we just
made
wanted
it there.
to fly.
Yeah, I get it.
We flew as slow as we possibly could. For some random reason, we used the engine that we crashed with, the motor that we crashed with.
Okay.
I don't know why, but we brought a backup motor, and this was the first time that we were flying like with that motor.
The backup or the main one?
The main motor after the crash.
Yeah.
And so we were like on the verge of a stall the entire time because the motor just could not produce power. And right after we landed, we had to go next in, I don't know, 30 minutes or something. And we went to the back of the parking lot, which is in the middle of the desert. And so you're not supposed to change anything about the plane, really.
Yeah.
But like we just had to swap the motors.
Yeah, makes sense.
We were in the back and we were like trying to swap these motors and doing test runs and things like that in the back. And then we came back and it was a little bit better, and we ended up landing every time.
So so you mentioned with the motor failure, right? It made me start thinking about the structure of the aeronautics team. So I was hoping you could talk about, how the team is organized, and also a little bit on the like how you guys problem solve.
Okay. The so that's basically what the aeronautics team
Yeah.
does. It was a relatively new team last year
Yeah.
because it was like our first time competing.
Sure.
And we basically had two leads.
Mhm.
We had, we had a president, but we mainly had two leads, which was me and this guy, Brandon Lutz, who is a genius. He
Go ahead.
came into school as a public health major, knew nothing about engineering,
Yeah.
and joined the team his sophomore year after switching into mechanical engineering, and is now probably like one of the smartest. He knows CAD better than anyone else on our team. He is. It's crazy how
Does he
much
always
he was
wear a
able to switch.
beanie? If
I
he
think
has
he
a day,
wears
then-
a hat sometimes. He's tall.
Okay, because I was doing some stalking on
Okay.
the Umass Aeronautics Instagram page, but
Okay.
Okay.
He might be on the Instagram page,
Yeah,
and if you check out the website too, if you go to like
I'll tag it all too.
if you go to Umass Engineering like design teams, it's the
Yeah.
first one.
Okay.
And I made sure that when they asked us to like put the link for our website on the page, I changed the name from Umass Aeronautics to just Aeronautics. So we were A because it's in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
And it would put us at the top.
Oh.
Yeah. So
For the campus pulse, right? That directory.
yeah, so it's in there. Yep.
Okay.
If you just go on the engineering page too, you'll find us right on
That's
the top.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Great call.
So yeah, last year it was like me that was mostly doing like I was doing the aerodynamic side of things and some of the team organization,
Mhm.
but most of the actual design of the plane was done by Brandon.
Okay.
And
what were you doing again? I didn't.
I was doing like like kind of like the general shape of the plane,
Yeah.
the airfoil, like kind of what makes it fly, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not how you make it, which is the
Mhm.
harder thing. I was like
Does he
mostly
have-
doing the team organization
Does
stuff.
Brandon have experience in aviation?
No, he knows nothing. I think he still doesn't know what like ailerons or elevators are in the plane, but it doesn't matter because I just
Yeah.
tell him,
Yeah.
what. He's very good at designing. He's
Yeah.
very good at strategic thinking, problem solving, things like that.
So SolidWorks demon.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm so bad at SolidWorks. I remember, so like in 113 we had the traffic light intersection project, and what I did is I searched up on YouTube traffic light SolidWorks. And
Okay.
I just got not completely right. I added my own touch,
Right.
so I didn't.
No,
plagiarize.
you just got some guidance.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So
So that was
continue.
like the organization of the team, not organized last year. It was like it was just him who was like doing a lot of the plane or doing a lot of the actual design of the plane. So then, and we had some people on the team. We probably had 10 additional people on the team.
Oh, okay.
10 or 15 additional people on the
Yeah.
team. But it was all their first year because Brendan and I and one other person were the only people that stayed on the team from the year before. So everyone was new. So everyone was just figuring out what the competition even was for the first time. Then no one knew anything about planes. So then everyone had to teach themselves how planes flew.
Right.
And we're competing against aeronautical engineering programs where everyone has their pilot's license and they're all trying to be airline pilots or aeronautical engineers or they want to go into NASA. And we are starting from what is a plane. And then, we kind of started to grow from there. And this year, we completely restructured the team.
Yeah.
So we have like 3 tiers. And the only reason why we did that is we copied Clemson's Formula SAE team, their racing team, which is like extremely successful.
Yeah.
And we were like, what works? And let's try it out. And we copied it, and it's been working pretty good so far.
Is it like management tiers?
Pretty much.
That's how it works in industry very often too. So.
And it's a balance between making so much, like, you don't want it to be you can only do one thing in your position, like a lot of companies are, like a lot of big companies are, and there's always someone above you that you report to.
Yeah.
You have to balance that because it's also just a fun design team. But at the other side of things, if you don't give everyone specific responsibilities, then it's hard to motivate yourself when you're not actually responsible for something. So the goal was to give as many people a title as possible.
Yeah.
So they could actually be responsible for it.
It's like what Baller 1, Baller 2, Baller 3.
Exactly. So we have a team lead and a production lead.
Okay.
So very similar to last year. So I was the team lead and the team lead this year. And it's very much like the organization of the team, running the meetings, communicating between all the teams or between all the divisions, which is right below.
And then how many divisions are there?
So right before I get there, then Brandon's the production lead.
Okay.
He manages the actual progress of the plane design, both design and manufacturing, as well as testing.
You see, in my mind while you're saying this, I'm trying to like align it with industry positions.
Okay.
So I got like CEO, CTO, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of how the team started.
Yeah.
Then we have divisions. So we have aerodynamics lead. They're making the outside shape of the plane.
So these are the directors.
Right. So you have an aerodynamics, we have a electrical systems, we have a structures, and we have business. We have these 3 business guys, and they are the best. And
you're good.
That was one of the biggest things that I think that we did, is bringing them in, because
how do they contribute?
So they made this purchasing system that works so well. They basically run a lot of our fundraising. Right. They hold our money. They run all this stuff. And what we could do is, in the beginning of the season, we could say, this is how much we want to allocate to the plane. This is how much we want to allocate to in terms of like percentages to the competition. Then the whole part of this year it's hard to do, is like to actually write in the team constitution that I can't do all these things. So what I did in the summer is we were making this new organization structure. Yeah. And
the founding fathers.
I had to basically say that I was not allowed to do all these things, to give them responsibility to actually do it. And it was literally, they do such a good job at it. And Brandon and I can set our goals for the team. Sure. Oh, sorry, I'm not as close.
Yeah, you're good.
So Brandon and I are not actually deciding whether we can buy something or not.
Okay.
The business guys say if we can buy it or not, based on what our goals are. And we set it in the beginning of the season. So, so we have that. And then we made a R&D team, a research and development team. And they are separate from the plane design. And their whole goal is to create new technologies for us, or give the team capabilities that we didn't have before.
Sure.
And this year, last year we went to the competition. All these crazy planes were made out of carbon fiber. The thing about carbon fiber is, first, the strength to weight ratio is pretty insane, but it also lets you have a lot more space in the plane, because you don't need these big structural components inside. You can carry a lot of the load through just the shape of the plane. So what their goal this year is to give us the capability to do carbon fiber, and they're doing it. We've already produced carbon fiber parts.
Yeah, I remember you came to my house. You're so happy. Opened up the trunk.
So that's like another 2 rolls
of carbon fiber.
So we can't afford carbon fiber because we're a new team.
Yeah.
So someone that I know was an intern at a company that did carbon fiber stuff, and they had all this expired carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And he had it in his basement, and I picked it up, and that's what I showed you. I'm like, I have like $3,000 worth of carbon fiber in my car. But but it's turned into this whole thing where all these people have responsibilities, and within all those divisions, you then have maybe 5 or 6 people under it, who then have responsibilities within aerodynamics or structures or something.
So how does one go about joining the aeronautics team?
In the very beginning, we have like an application process, and we have info sessions. We go to all the classes, and we just try to promote that the team exists.
Yeah, could bring some cute girls over.
And And then we have the application process and a little interview, and then we go from there.
And what are you looking for during the interview process for someone who wants to join the aeronautics team?
This year we completely changed it. Most teams look at, they want a resume. They want to see that you have experience in SolidWorks, experience in all this other stuff. And of course, we need some people like that. But we also know that we did fine teaching ourselves everything. So we were just looking for people that were motivated. We designed the application for someone to be able to have absolutely zero experience and be at the same level as someone that has a lot of experience, and be at the same level because of their motivation.
Yeah.
So we had all these design challenges on SolidWorks, but in the application, it said step-by-step process of how to download SolidWorks. Then it had all these video tutorials. So everything that they had to make had a video tutorial to it, which are just available online. And we took people that were willing to go through those video tutorials and teach it to themselves.
Yeah.
And if you taught yourself SolidWorks using the video tutorials that we provided you, and you downloaded SolidWorks with the instructions that we gave to you, then you're at the same level as someone who had SolidWorks experience for 5 years.
It shows you're teachable too, right? You want to put in the work, and that's a very unique part of an interview process. I've never heard of anything like that before, because you're really weeding out who's serious, who isn't, and it's probably a better process than having like an HR manager search through keywords.
Yeah.
Wow.
So no GPA.
That's mind blowing.
No resume.
Who came up with that idea?
There was a bunch of people that went around. That it was me, Brandon. Some of the leads went through it, and we were all like, "You could have the smartest people on the team, but if they're not motivated, you don't get anything out of them." So we designed this application that literally you could take a public health major like Brandon and get him at or above someone that has experience.
Yeah, and it shows that they're willing to put in the work too.
Yeah.
Do you guys require a cover letter?
Nope.
I hate cover letters.
Yeah.
I have I have a cover letter format, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's this point in my life I was just a LinkedIn whore. I'd be going around like apply. And I'd be so happy if I didn't need to do a cover letter, but I'd have like a cover letter format. Hello, I'm applying to blank, and I'm interested in this role because of blank. I believe I can provide blank, blank, blank to your company.
Yeah.
Because of blank. I mean, very unique interview process. I'd like to see that.
You're getting some success with your internship.
Yes, but that's coming from experience, not
right
authenticity.
But at the same point, a lot of like at these application processes, there's some sort of like misalignment or not miscommunication between all these companies and all these students, because every single company is complaining about not having enough interns or not having enough engineers.
Every company.
Like all these companies.
So there's an engineering shortage.
Complain about it. Yeah. But all these students are applying to like 200 positions and can't get a job. So all these companies think that it's super easy to get a job.
Yeah.
And all these students think that it's almost impossible to get a job.
Right.
And it must be because of the application process.
Yeah. It's a keyword. If you can tailor your resume to fit certain boxes, then and if you don't, but the hardest part is though during getting your first internship is you don't have any industry experience.
Yes.
Like, how are you gonna get one?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it boils down to interest, and I think to provide freshmen and sophomores with that opportunity, companies should be more on that road, because then it shows a student is interested in the company because they're willing to spend like an hour and a half of their day. How long does it take to complete the SolidWorks process?
I mean, for an experienced person, it could take 10, 15 minutes. It could take a few days for someone learning SolidWorks for the first time, but you have almost a month to complete the application.
So first year, right? April, you guys look to just get in the competition.
Yep.
April 2024. What's the goal?
The goal is to
Trying to kick ass,
be competitive.
Yeah.
So
show them Germans, right?
Yeah. So last year we proved that we could get there. This year we're going for top 10.
Oh, awesome.
So that's the goal, and we've had, so many people on the team.
Yeah.
Be able to like make a big impact in the plane. We've already flown. We made a foam replica of the plane.
A phone?
A foam.
Oh, okay.
Foam replica
Yeah.
of the plane to prove that it could fly. The shape was good. We made a few adjustments before we built it out of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been fun. A lot of work, but really fun. Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys had a prototype on SolidWorks before you jumped in. Yeah, that seems essential. So top 10, right? And aeronautics is getting more recognition too.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of mechies and IEs. Like that's mostly mechies. Let's not kid around.
Yeah.
Mechies are super interested, but I mean, now what? You guys have electrical engineers. Any civil engineers on the team?
No civil engineers, but we take anybody.
Okay. Actually, yeah, that makes sense. What about like a psych major, human factors, things like that? That could be helpful.
And I think that's where like the team is going. Last year we were 100%, 99%.
Yeah.
Mechanical engineers. We had one electrical engineer.
Nerds.
This year we have maybe 20% electrical engineers.
Okay.
5% business and finance, and the rest mechanical.
Do you have some sort of ideal spread of majors? Or is
I think you always need the majority of the team to be mechanical engineers because, you just need that small component design.
Yeah.
But I think we need industrial engineers. We need civil engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that can think.
Yeah.
We can take. And then, if we can expand the team to have a bunch of different perspectives to build something, because a civil engineer is going to design something completely different than a mechanical engineer. A mechanical engineer is going to want to go through and make the gears super perfect, and it's going to focus on weight, but he's not going to think about the environment. Like last year, we went to the competition, and it was one component that was 3D printed, and we had this little insert that would go into it. That would basically, we would heat this metal insert into the 3D printed plastic, and that would be like a screw hole, so we could screw something into there. Sure. That's how we screwed in our landing gear.
Yeah.
We had 4 of those that we heated in, basically melted the plastic around it, and then you could just screw the landing gear on into the 3D printed part. What we didn't think about is how hot Arizona is. It was sitting, we were waiting to fly. It was sitting on, right next to the runway for maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It went very close to the melting point or the working point of the plastic, and the landing gear fell off. And which is crazy to think about, that it got that hot. Bad, 190 degrees it would have to get to, I think. But that's how hot it got in between.
It did not get 190 degrees.
Well, in between the plane and the tarmac,
okay.
in that small location, it's very possible that it would. And so it got to that point, the landing gear fell off, only because we did not think about the environment. Whereas a civil engineer, all they do is think about the environment.
Of course.
So they would say, well, what's the temperature of the place we're going to? What are the winds going to be? What's like various things? Can the materials that we're using withstand the place that we're going?
Yeah. What are you guys graded on aesthetics for the planes?
Nope.
Okay. Do you think
a lot of ugly ducklings?
Do you think it should be a part of the process?
I don't think so.
Because functionality is crucial too, but also to sell your product.
I think making it look nice is inherently part of the process to get sponsors, to make yourself feel good that you have a good looking plane. There's always the thought of like, do we really have to do this? because it's not going to help us.
Yeah.
But then there's the other thing of like, how much is it going to hurt us if we make it look cool? Which is what we're doing this year. There's a few things
Put
that
some
we
glitter on.
completely change the shape of the tail, make it a little less stable, but still stable enough just to make it look cool.
Okay. Yeah, and then the plane weighs again how much?
Without any payload, it's going to be like 6 or 7 pounds, pretty light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So well, you mentioned that you wanted to see aeronautics in high schools.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, it started with this. So this guy came up to me at our pancake breakfast, which is just a fundraising event that we do, and make pancakes, and all these people fly in, and people come, and it's fun. And
those are good pancakes and eggs. Yeah.
I didn't make any of them, but
whoever chefed them up. I think Jake Jerko.
Pretty good. Yep. I think he was on it. Yep. And so he came up to me, and there's this high school program that's trying to, get kids into STEM, basically. And he really likes aviation and flying, and had this program, this after school program where he would, take a group of students, and they would do a few lessons, go on some field trips to airports, and he wanted to partner with aeronautics and, have us teach some lessons, come to aeronautics. And I think, that's a really good thing. You're getting people exposure. I was just lucky that I was around flying, but for most people, it seems hard to grasp because, you can't get in a plane easily. You can't do something like that. So, doing things like that, the aeronautics team, we have a lot of people on the team that are in the process of getting their pilot's license just because they have resources from the team. Not financial resources, just like available knowledge from the team.
Do you have any plans to, you guys obviously have the Instagram, but I don't know, sort of short content about what the aeronautics team is doing so you can spread the message to more people?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do better at. We need people that are motivated, that really like doing social media. I am not the guy for that.
No, I guess like the role of an influencer, social media personnel on your team or on any team in general, at this point, it's becoming like increasingly valuable. I think there's going to be a social media management. I can see one happening later on down the road. Social media management. Yeah, there's a lot to go on, and it's the best way to get revenue. Maybe not the best way, but
it's the quickest. Yeah, a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's
but it's cool.
Yeah. With this podcast, I got my feet back down into social media too. Yeah, it's been an interesting process because I'm trying to work on controlling myself. Because now on my tablet, I have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Yeah, so I gotta be careful. Yeah, but they're very helpful. Like getting this podcast out there, I can the whole reason why I'm videotaping, to be honest with you, is so I can make short form content. Yeah, to get it out to people because no one chances of someone actually watching like a full 2-hour YouTube clip, just YouTube. People like the audio and whatnot, but chances are low. So short content is becoming huge, and I don't know how where you guys are of that. I'm pretty sure you are, but it would be a
we're not where we should be on that. But I think we definitely need it as much as I don't like it. Yeah.
Do you dislike using it, or what do you dislike?
Yeah, I'm not. I know how much time can be wasted. Yeah. From social media. Sure. And how it's all this short content. Yeah. Has made people not be, their attention spans have become so short that I try to restrict myself from using all that stuff. But for a lot of small companies and for small things like aeronautics, you got to use it.
Do you try and restrict yourself? Absolutely, not use it at all. Use it in moderation.
The only one that I use is YouTube. I don't have Instagram.
Shorts go crazy.
But then now you have shorts. So it's like you can't fully escape from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any other social media aside from like I have a LinkedIn that I, used to check more than I should. And now I don't as much. But yeah, so YouTube is mainly
they do out the notification bell. It'll be like, Blank posted this, nothing actually related to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I have this rule, right? I used to, with short content, I'd be on it all the time throughout the day. And again, yeah, you're right. People are having shorter attention spans. And in order to build up focus, it takes about 15 minutes before you get in that steady flow state. And if you're always like scrolling through shorts or checking up your phone, it's very disruptive and very harmful.
Yeah, I've had a few times where I go through shorts and I feel like my brain is like fried. I think after like even a few minutes of just going through.
There's a steady balance. The last like my whole rule, I'm allowed to watch like, short content, like once I'm done with everything, pull up and actually get a lot of interesting facts, information off of it if you tailor your content appropriately. Mine used to just be like attractive women and things like that, and then I switched up. And now what I've been doing, right, because I'm trying to wake up earlier in the day, I like as a way to get my, because I'm waking up around like 6:30, I let myself like scroll on my iPad for 10 minutes, and that gets me awake, and it gets me like just the right amount of energy to like move on to my shower, and keep going from there. So it's a really helpful tool, but you have to gain control over it.
Yeah.
Now, we're in a different position, right? Because we're engineering majors, we have more of rigorous coursework, and I'm curious to know this, like, what are your strategies to get through? Because aeronautics takes time. You're a mechanical engineer. How do you get through everything? How do you find balance?
Well, the balance is definitely hard,
yeah,
especially because I set a rule for myself that I like don't really do homework after 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like I've almost never done it. Maybe a few times. And even if I did go past 9 o'clock, it probably ended at 10 or 10:30.
Sure.
So that means that all the work gets done earlier in the day and during the day. So I'm starting to get better at the balance, but I'm definitely like not totally where I should be, because for the entire day during the week, from maybe 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., I am doing work or doing aeronautics or something.
Yeah, I get that too. I'm the same way. I remember in high school, people would brag about staying up till 3 a.m. I mean, you went to LS too. Actually, I tell you, Eddie from LS too, but we went to some competitive high schools, and kids would be bragging, and I'm thinking to myself like, I'm like latest 9, 10. I don't get why, and it really boils down to like, for most people, I don't mind like if I spend the difference between spending 5 quality hours studying for something versus like 12 quality hours, and I'm talking about quality hours, is like the difference between a B plus and an A. And I'm okay getting a B or B plus and taking those 4 hours and using them someplace else, because I can't be perfect in all my engineering classes. It's not something I can.
Yeah, I got to be a little bit better at that. I'm still a little bit more at, just grinding and trying to get the A every single time.
Right.
And that gives up a lot other things. Like I'm not at the balance that I should be.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also like what your goals align with, right? If you want to be a beast in aviation, yeah, I mean, by all means. Not like, not all of my goals and future insights align with industrial engineering. It's just it's a foundational piece for me to build off on. So I'm not trying to be perfect in it. I'm trying to, understand it and be able to use it to my advantage, but not to like wield it like a giant sword, like slaying all my demons. Now, there's also, I want to call it a myth, and not necessarily like a giant myth, but there's this conception that engineers, like the amount of coursework we get is just astronomical, way too much. I don't think that's the case. I think it's daily management just a little bit.
I completely
like
agree.
a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
If you take a day off when you shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
it is almost impossible
Yeah.
to not go crazy and feel like your coursework is just completely impossible.
Yeah.
But if you really stay on top of it, I think everything is really doable.
Do you find like when you take an exam, do you find it harder or easier than what you expected it to be in general for
In
engineering classes?
Depends what class it is.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, I think
Fluids aside, right?
Yeah, fluids aside. I think most of the time, I think the exams are fair.
Yeah.
I'll walk out of it and say, like, I think I did well.
Mm-hmm.
It was very challenging, and I usually burn out by the end of the exam, and I leave and I
Right.
have no energy. But I still think, like, fair exam, everything on that, I could be able to figure out, or I should be able to figure everything
Yeah.
out. So aside from a few classes that you're like absolutely no idea what they were asking,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, if you're like really on top of things, and I think you also have to be interested in it.
Yeah.
If you're going into engineering for the money, which is for a lot of the time, it's not like you're making crazy amounts of money.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the business kids may not be there, but some of the business kids are going to be making a lot more money than a lot of the engineers.
Some context, right? Jake and I are also tour guides for the College of Engineering, and they have this poster of starting salaries for engineers.
Yeah.
It's like 70 to 90K, depending on what engineering.
Which is really high for a starting salary.
And they're going to be higher.
Yeah. Which is really high.
Yeah.
But when you're 10, 15 years into an engineer and you're still making, low hundreds compared to another major that may be making a lot more, it's not like it's not like you're making $200,000 or something like that, unless you go and you do something further.
And even if you become very specialized in that one major, you're not going to make more than, for the most part, like 200 grand.
It's hard to tell unless you're able to really lead a team and go that way. But maybe that's the case for a lot of other majors too.
Sure.
And I completely lost my train of thought.
Well, if you're a business major, you're
So I think a lot of people are going into engineering for the money, or because their parents want them to be engineers, and it's so much harder if you don't like it. Right. Like I go into my classes like really liking what I'm doing, and I'm sure for a lot of the classes you're very similar.
Not for mechie classes.
Not for mechie classes. When I have
to do a mechie, Jake, I'm so, because I got strengths out the way.
Yeah.
No more. Okay.
But when you're doing like a human factors or statistics or something like that, maybe it's a little closer.
Yeah, it clicks.
Or psychology is probably so much easier for you.
I'd also argue that if you don't know what you want to be and you're going into college, I think like you have no clue what you want. Engineering is a very, very versatile degree. And you might not love it, but I'd say it's a really good starting point for a practical, valuable degree. Because at the end of the day, everyone sees engineers as elite problem solvers, right? And you can use that degree everywhere. So I think you have to be interested. But B, if you have no clue what you want to do and you're choosing to go to college, which honestly at this point I don't advise because of the amount that college costs. Yeah. But engineering, that would be another similar application. Now, we're talking about all this balance stuff, and you recently, last spring, if I'm not correct, in Hopkinton, you ran a triathlon.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about the training process required to do that?
Well, I ran my first triathlon in June, and it was I didn't do the triathlon.
Yeah.
I did one part of the relay of the triathlon. So it was just the swim part. Two of my friends who were also on the aeronautics team one of them did the running, and then one of them did the biking.
Oh, it's Jake Simon, Jake Cherko.
Yep, and Caleb Smith did the biking.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was super fun. And
yeah,
so what I did, so you have to do gen eds in college, and I had to take kinesiology, intro to kinesiology last fall.
Yeah.
And I barely went to class. But the one thing that class did to me is scare me that if I don't work out enough, it's, really bad for your body.
Sure.
And for your health and everything. So it scared me enough.
Real quick, camera check.
Okay. Yeah, do it.
Your triathlon, you were swimming, and
yeah, well, that's how I started swimming, because I played sports in high school, and I got hurt in most of them.
Right.
So I'm like, I can't do a lot of the stuff in the gym. I can't do, a lot of like the heavy weightlifting and things like that. So I needed to find something that I could do what intro to kinesiology was telling me I had to do.
Sure.
While also, making it sustainable for my body. So then I tried swimming, and my goal was to just swim 3 times a week and just get in the pool, even if it was like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'd do that in the morning. I'd wake up at like 6:30, try to be in the pool at 7. And I started, and I could barely do a lap. I could get there, take a couple breaths, get back. And I did that for like a month. And then I got into it a little bit more and was able to do 1 lap. 2 laps was a big step.
Yeah.
And then I just slowly started getting to the point that I could get close to the quarter mile of the sprint triathlon.
And then that's 800 meters ish.
It's a quarter mile. So
then 400.
400. Yep. 400.
Yeah.
Yep. So, which is about like, for me, it was about maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. But.
So, turn it off. Oh, okay. So. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun. So I did it, and I'm going to do the same thing again this year. So it basically got me into swimming.
Yeah.
And it got me into working out.
Well, swimming is also amazing. It's a full body workout, and eating after a swim workout.
Well, you did swimming.
Yeah, in like middle school.
Yeah.
I think I got my like good shoulder structure from it. I mean, I've like the sports that I've done for a while now, I always build something off of it. And like rowing built my back and my legs.
Mm-hmm.
Swimming built my shoulders, but it's really cool you're swimming. Do you have any plans for an upcoming triathlon?
I think
any
I'm
sort
gonna
of swimming,
do the same.
Ironman.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I think I'm gonna try to do the same triathlon and maybe add one more for this year.
Yeah.
And in order to train for the triathlon, it's very different to be in a pool than to be in open water.
Oh yeah. And were you in open ocean or open river?
It was like
a pond.
Yeah, it was like a small lake pond.
Yeah.
And so you need to be accustomed to swimming through small waves, swimming through obstacles.
So resistance.
You also can't see anything when you're
Like
when you're in a pool.
Can you wear goggles?
Well, you wear goggles, but when you're in a pool, you have that line on the bottom, and you can see because it's all lit and it's pretty shallow. You can barely see your hands when you're in the open water.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to like look up and to be able to understand your surroundings.
Yeah, and I mean, right now you can't really train in the lake or.
Yeah, so I have a wetsuit that when it's about maybe between 50 and 55 degrees water temperature, I'll get in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any places near UMass?
I haven't gone near UMass. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Near
no
here,
E. coli,
small lakes. Yeah,
during that time.
Yeah,
yeah,
not the safest.
Yeah. Anyways, Jake, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to shout out? Do so now in the mic. Any last messages?
Let's see. I think the biggest thing that I would plug, which is not like the aeronautics team or not anything else, would be if you ever thought about trying to fly, or you ever thought about working on planes or being in aviation or anything, it's a lot more doable than people think. And whether that's, going to a 2-year A&P school and getting your A&P so you can work on airlines or work on small planes, which is a big step, or it's just, walking into a flight school and starting to understand what it takes to get your pilot's license. If you pay for it in full, it could be a little bit more than $5,000 for a lot of people. However, there's so many scholarships and there's so many people that are able to do the whole thing for almost nothing.
Yeah.
For the A&P thing, you don't need to go to school. You can do apprenticeship. You can work for a small shop and you work on planes the same as they do. You just have to be under the supervision of them.
Yeah.
And you can't sign the logbook. They sign it for you, but you're doing the work.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to get into aviation for little to no money, both for flying and for maintenance.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot easier than people think. You need to, which is the hardest part, is to find someone that is really passionate about aviation that can help you through it.
Yeah.
Help you try to save money, help you try to, make it doable.
Yeah. And if you get the chance, definitely do send me some of these scholarship and financial aid sources.
Yeah.
Because I can put them in the description.
Sure. Yeah. EAA is a huge one. AOPA has a ton. All the small airports have little chapters that are a subset of EAA, this like nonprofit organization. They have a scholarship program where each one of them will give out one scholarship to a student every year. There's so many ways to get into it. So
good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, Jake, thank you very much. We are the Silent Smirk podcast. Thank you very much for listening, tuning in, watching, any way you're interacting with our content. Please be sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe, anything we can do better, anything you guys want to see. If you guys want Drake to hop on the show, we can do it all, I promise. Yeah, we're here, we're back. 2024, the grind starts, and we'll be going. Jake, thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right.
See ya.